I would like now to invite our colleagues Elena and Ekaterina to tell us about why UNAIDS and UNESCO, the two UN organizations here, have supported this project and what UNAIDS and UNESCO stand on are on gender equality and prevention of gender-based violence. So, Elena, would you like to
I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Well, I also would like to thank Army very much for a great presentation. We also learned a lot from this project. I would like to mention that, of course, it would not be possible without technical expertise of UNESCO, who have been our really great partner for a long time in this region. And we invited them especially because they're experts in, working with digital resources and with organizations like Teens Life. And of course, the government of the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, who provided the financial support. Well, we at UNAIDS believe that we cannot we cannot end the HIV/AIDS epidemic without addressing the inequalities, including the gender inequality. And gender-based violence creates significant harm to women and girls and also increases their risk of HIV and decreases their ability to be treated. We know that women who face gender-based violence, they sometimes stop receiving IRT, antiretroviral treatment. And some of our research, recent gender assessment, for example, that UNAIDS supported in Armenia, they showed that unfortunately gender-based violence is still widespread in Armenia and persist both in offline and online spaces and deeply rooted in Armenians' social norms. And we already my colleagues already talked about the importance of, social norm change. I'd like to maybe mention another few studies that we have on violence. One of them was completed by a local Armenian organization. It's called Real World, Real People, with support from European Union, and they looked particularly at marginalized women who actually faced higher levels of violence. They asked women who live with HIV or who are women who use drugs, and they found out that 70% of them, they experienced parental abuse as children. And in the last 12 months, at the time of the study, about 80% of them experienced one form of violence from the spouse or partner. It was not necessarily sexual violence, but it could be economical violence or psychological one. We also consider at UNAIDS that there is institutional violence or obstetric, as it's called. One of the examples is when, for example, women living with HIV are forced to have an abortion, or when abortion is related to the choice of the gender of the embryo for cultural reasons or religious reasons, for example. Unfortunately, many of women, they do not seek help. In many of our countries, especially in Central Asia, we know that women tolerate violence. About 40% of both men and women overall believe that it's okay if, if a man beats his wife. And in many countries, it's still unfortunately perceived as a kind of private matter which should not be shared outside of the house. And this is specifically what we were trying, to fight with supporting this project, by changing the very kind of core, the social norms. And it was also really interesting for us to find out through Teens Live that the biggest trust that boys and young men have is within their close circles, within families, within friends, and not so much even the media. So hopefully we will continue to support such project. That was a pilot for us in Armenia. I know that there is interest in some other countries, and hopefully I do have some preliminary news that we might have also funding to continue these efforts in Armenia. And I'm happy to announce it here today at the webinar. And yeah, because I know there was a great interest to the test, and even it was at some point it was even closed because there was not enough resources to process the data, which showed extreme interest. But let me stop here and give a opportunity to Katya also to share from UNESCO side. Thank you.
Yeah, dear Elena, thank you so much. Indeed, we appreciate greatly your support and the support of the Dutch of Luxembourg that made possible to implement this very important project. And I'm extremely pleased to join this discussion today, since we are discussing the topic that goes beyond any policies and frameworks, because today we are deliberating on deeply personal challenges that impact families, communities, and the broader progress toward equality, I would say. So indeed, UNESCO and UNAIDS have long partnered to challenge harmful gender norms and stereotypes and promote inclusivity. So as Professor Lohan mentioned today, by focusing on men and boys as allies, we advance gender equality, and our initiatives aim to address the root causes of inequality and violence in general. So one such initiative is the Joint Positive Masculinity Project, which was excellently presented today by my colleague Armi. Indeed, it featured a dynamic social media campaign that was a great success, and the campaign served as a platform for dialogue on societal expectations of masculinity. And here I would say that we gathered the views, the insights from both men and women, girls and boys. And of course, as we already mentioned, it was designed based on insights from focus groups conducted across Armenia. This approach not only ensured the campaign's relevance, but also allowed us to collect valuable sociological data. So this evidence-based strategy was instrumental in creating targeted and impactful messages that resonated deeply with our audience, with our youth that we try to empower through these campaigns. But today I would also like to share some global perspectives, some global initiatives that make this path towards equality be a success, let's say. So globally, we have implemented several transformative activities, and I've heard there were questions about other regional deliveries. So here we go. First of all, we have trained civil society organizations in Central Asia, and we engaged men in combating gender-based violence, equipping them with the skills to facilitate long-term change. Then we also had capacity building workshops in East Africa that have focused on fostering positive masculinities and engaging boys in schools to create more inclusive learning environments. And as Professor Jourdan mentioned today, there was also a very important initiative, the Transforming Mentalities program. It introduced a training session for social workers and psychologists to better engage men and address domestic violence in Central Asia. And it was also accompanied by the development of practical manual for community organizations. So it was really a very comprehensive tool that helped society to combat these gender-based violence related issues, let's say. So in a nutshell, I would say that all our global initiatives share some common characteristics. First of all, I would highlight that programs are most effective when they are co-designed with their communities they serve, with the people in the field. I mean, both the communities and the program officers working in the field. For example, the Positive Masculinity campaign in Armenia gained traction because we reflected the insights and voices of the youth and communities consulted during its implementation and development. Then I would say another important point is using creative approaches like digital service, interactive campaigns, like storytelling, all these things we all know about, but they are not always used. And I would say using them make complex topics more accessible and more relatable. So these tools do engage audiences effectively, and they also foster meaningful discussions and thus changes. Then I would say that sustainable initiatives like our training programs in Central Asia, like the Transforming Mentalities program, they have demonstrated that the importance of empowering local organizations will help us sustain and also scale the work that they can continue independently. And of course, I need to show this link to the Sustainable Development Goals, because our efforts, they were firmly rooted in the SDGs. First of all, the SDG 5 on gender equality, but also SDG 4 on inclusive and equitable education. And I would say that like for UNESCO and for the UN in general, education is not only a fundamental, is considered to be not only a fundamental right, but also a catalyst for changing attitudes and behaviors. So I would say that at UNESCO, we are committed to building on these successes, and our approaches mainly focuses on three interconnected pillars. First of all, we will be talking about access. So we try to ensure that all individuals have equitable opportunities to learn and grow. Then the second pillar is content. So we develop inclusive educational materials that challenge stereotypes, but also support emotional well-being. And the other truly important pillar is engagement, as I have already mentioned. So we try to leverage technology, but also partnerships, like the fruitful partnership with our UNAIDS colleagues. So we try by leveraging these tools, we try to expand the reach and impact of our initiatives. So for instance, through the Transforming Mentalities program, we've seen how engaging men and boys via structured training and dialogue can shift long-standing social norms. And by focusing on these capacity building initiatives, we ensure that these changes, they are not only meaningful, but also sustainable. So as a conclusion, I would just say that promoting positive masculinity and also combating gender-based violence are essential steps while moving towards achieving gender equality. And I think that it's only possible when we marry global priorities with local action, with local changes. So thank you so much for your attention, and I look forward to continuing this dialogue. And I was really pleased to hear that we'll have this financial support to continue our initiative in Armenia, and not only will expand the geography and will do the good things for more communities, like both in our region and across the globe. Thank you so much.